Hello, seventh graders. Happy day to each and every one of you. Hope you're doing well. Let's take a look at chapter 14, section 3. Remember in 14.1, we looked at industry in the North. The last section, 14.2, we looked at life in the North. So we're going to look at 14.3, which is going to talk about the economy of the South. And the economy of the South is going to be called Cotton Kingdom, okay, in the South. We know from our study of slavery up until now that the major type of economic activity in the South was farming, and there were many thousands of large plantations in the South. Plantations are farms with slaves who served as workers. So 14.3, we're going to talk about Cotton Kingdom in the South. Remember that I have placed your vocab deck for 14.3 on the Schoology site, and they're also linked on Quizlet. You can study. There's a couple of terms that you'll need to be familiar with. There's not that many. There's 2 terms in 14.3 and 3 terms in 14.4, but nonetheless, they're out there on Quizlet for you, and they're also linked to your Schoology page as well. Look at Cotton Kingdom of the South. During the early years of the Industrial Revolution, the demand for cotton increased. Textile mills needed cotton to make cloth in the North, and cotton grew well in parts of the South. Southern planters, however, had difficulty meeting the demand for cotton. Removing seeds from cotton was a slow process that had to be done by hand. It was a very difficult process. Slaves would be forced to remove the seeds from cotton before it could be processed into cloth, and it was very laborious and tedious. And in 1793, Eli Whitney invented a machine called the cotton gin short for engine. Okay, and Eli Whitney, we know from our earlier lessons, Eli Whitney was also the man responsible for interchangeable parts when he invented his rifle made of interchangeable parts. But in 1793, Whitney invents the cotton gin, and this machine led to a large increase in cotton production. One worker using a cotton gin could do the work of about 50 slaves cleaning cotton by hand. The process of taking the seeds out was called cleaning. So the cotton gin could basically do the work of 50 people cleaning by hand. As Southern planters grew more cotton, they began moving west to start more plantations. So as the cotton gin allows farmers to process more and more cotton by removing the seeds quickly, farmers, large plantation owners are now able to buy more land and move across the South in a westerly direction. And not only are they moving and buying more land, but they are also buying more slaves to work those lands. So slavery is being brought into Western territories as well. By the 1850s, cotton was grown in a wide area of land from South Carolina to Texas. This area came to be called the Cotton Kingdom. As the Cotton Kingdom grew, so did the need for slaves to work on the plantations. And there's a great graph to the right here that we'll look at in a moment that will show us exactly what the expansion of slavery is going to do as slaves move west and property owners move west as well. Continuing on, unlike the economy of the industrial North, the economy in the South depended largely on farming. In areas where cotton did not grow well, farmers would instead grow rice, sugarcane, or tobacco. Some Southerners wanted the South to build factories. Compared to the North, there were very few factories in the South. Okay, but some Southerners wanted the South to build factories. However, most planters were more interested in buying land and slaves than they were in building factories. Despite having rich resources such as iron, wood, and stone, the South relied more and more on farming. Because slaves could not afford to buy goods, there was little demand for Southern manufactured goods. So ironically, the goods that would be made from Southern cotton would be shipped north and Southerners relied on the North and Europe for most of the factory products that they used. If Southerners needed something that was produced in a factory, they would be dependent almost completely on Northern states or on Europe for their goods that they did not manufacture in their own factories in the South. They also borrowed money from Northern banks to grow, to buy more land and to buy more slaves. But interesting, there was also a relationship between the North and the South that was interdependent, even though there were no factories in the South to produce cloth from cotton. Northerners were more than willing to purchase raw cotton from Southern planters and basically use that cotton to create cloth in the textile mills in the North. So there was a relationship, a business relationship that existed between Northern states and Southern states. But the key point there in this last paragraph is that most Southerners that depended on manufactured goods, whether they were wood products, whether they were tools, or whether they were clothing or what have you, most of those goods would have to be purchased from either Northern states or from Europe. Two questions at the bottom of the worksheet here. And the first question you can answer by using the reading, how did the cotton gin affect the production of cotton in the South? And the second question you can answer using the graph about how many slaves were there in 1820 and how many slaves were there in 1860. Please answer both of these questions using a Google Doc. Please number your responses. And also be sure to watch this tutorial video along with the other videos that I've posted on your Schoology account for 14.3. There's going to be a video on the cotton gin that you'll need to watch. It's pretty fascinating. And there's going to be a video on the movement of slaves west as planters bought more and more land west. Slavery would be brought to these new territories as well.